I am, however, going through an eviction right now. The guy's on house arrest. Not even at my house. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, and today I want to talk to you about the truth about buying cheap rental properties. Yeah, they're a little bit easier to get a hold of. The barrier to entry isn't quite so daunting and impossible to overcome. But what do you give up by buying cheap rental properties? There are some things that you need to be aware of. Look, I own a really nice $600,000 duplex in the Seattle area. I know many people who own big, beautiful properties in beautiful markets where it's easy to rent to very nice people. I also own 5 rentals in Gary, Indiana, which has been dubbed America's most miserable city, with crime rates and poverty rates 3 times the national average. So what is the truth when it comes to buying in markets as depressed and depressing as Gary, Indiana, and most of the rest of Northwest Indiana? Alright, so the number one thing that you're really going to have to struggle with, especially if you already own nice rentals in a nicer area and you're looking to diversify, be aware of the fact that there is a huge difference in the quality and the type of tenant you will be getting in an area like Gary, Indiana. I remember when I first sat down and spoke with my property manager, and I asked her what her qualifications were. You know, what is your required credit score? What is your required income for these individuals? And I said, here in Washington, I'm looking for like a 690 credit score, 3 times the actual amount of rent and income. And she said, if somebody had a 690 credit score in Gary, Indiana, they wouldn't be renting. They would have already bought a house. Houses are $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And I said, all right, fair enough, that makes sense. Well then, how low do you go on the credit score? And she straight up told me she doesn't look at the credit score. Now, she looks at their credit report to make sure that they aren't missing copious amounts of payments on stupid purchases, but that she doesn't count things like medical, student loans, and even some missed payments that are a few years old. She does have a hard and fast rule when it comes to evictions. She doesn't want any evictions. And my new property manager, because I'm trying out a new property manager, says he won't rent to you unless you have no evictions over the last 5 years. But again, here in Washington, if someone had an eviction, I'd be like, no, thank you. I don't care if it was 25 years ago. There's hundreds of people looking at my property. I'm going to pick the person who's as pristine and prestigious as can possibly put into that unit. And that's just not how it is in some of these markets. So this is why it's very important to have a good property manager who really knows the ins and outs and can place a tenant well, successfully. And so far, I have not had to evict a tenant my property managers have placed. I am, however, going through an eviction right now. The guy's on house arrest. Not even at my house. He got arrested in Illinois at his mama's house and got put on house arrest at his mama's house. So we can't even serve him the paperwork because he's at his mama's house and won't answer the phone. Anyways, I'll make a video on that too. But back to this. So I've never had a tenant be on house arrest here in Washington. The quality of tenants, your experience with the tenants is going to be different. Following up on that, I get paid. I do. $800 a month, that's the rent. I'll get it eventually with a lot of late payments and a lot of late fees, and sometimes they pay me half at the beginning of the month, half at the end of the month, and I give my property manager a lot of credit because at the end of the year, I got all the money I was supposed to get. Now, it was a little creative in when and where and how it got to me, but it gets to me eventually. So if you're the kind of person who is not sitting on large cash reserves where you're counting on that monthly income getting to you on a certain day, or it's going to cause you problems, you need to be aware that, look, a lot of the folks you're working with, I mean, they're like, hey, can I pay you $200 this week, $300 next week, and then I'll get my final paycheck at the end of the month, and I'll catch up at that point. Now, I understand the naysayers would be like, dude, these are terrible tenants, terrible quality. You know, you also got to remember, the last 2 years I've been investing there have been a very interesting 2 years for the world, if you know what I mean. And so dealing with those issues, a lot of folks that live in this type of rental market are going to be Section 8 tenants, are going to be assisted living, assisted housing, food stamp, all these different programs. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how I grew up as a kid, on food stamps and on assisted living and all that stuff. There's good people who are on those programs, and then there's also the people who unfortunately do try to take advantage of the system. And so hopefully you can avoid them, but you just need to be aware there is a larger propensity of individuals like that that you could be dealing with, as opposed to my Amazon, Boeing, and Microsoft employees that I rent to here in Seattle, right? They're just a little different. The next thing, deferred maintenance. The houses that you're buying, I recommend personally, if you're going to invest from out of state, please don't try to do the BRRRR strategy. Please, until you're experienced enough and have enough cash reserves that you can stomach the fact that you bought a lemon that's going to cost 3 times as much as you thought. These houses were built 70, 80 years ago, sometimes 100 years ago. They have deferred maintenance, they've got bad plumbing, they've got bad wiring, they've got code violations left and right that have just been grandfathered in, and the second you start to remodel anything, you trigger all of the new codes that then quadruple the cost of your project. You need to be aware of this stuff and be very careful, okay? There's nothing wrong with undertaking these projects. They're still cheap houses. You can still do a successful BRRRR. I wouldn't try to do it from out of state, but you can. You can. It's just not as easy as if you actually have boots on the ground, primarily your own boots, because nobody cares more about your money than you. So be aware of deferred maintenance. And why is there so much deferred maintenance? Well, that's another problem that I'd like to discuss. The presence of slumlords. Now, the internet is no stranger to the fact that it's very common nowadays to hate on landlords. If you're not savvy with TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, then maybe you haven't been aware of the growing trend of people to say, hashtag rent strike. We should all collectively get together and just no longer, we're not paying rent anymore. And landlords are parasites and landlords are leeches. In fact, if you go to Google right now and type in landlords and let Google autofill the rest of your search, it's going to have just derogatory comment one right after the next. It's not a pretty picture. And some of that criticism is deserved because there are slumlords out there in places like this who take advantage of poor people who are renting from them that they know don't have enough money to hire an attorney to sue the slumlord for doing a bad job. Now, me personally, I think those people should be fined and possibly even arrested because the job they're doing is so egregious they should be ashamed of themselves as human beings. It's your responsibility to take care of your tenant. This is why you should not play loose and fast with your cash reserves. You should have enough to fix a problem, or at least lines of credit enough to fix a problem in a timely manner, because people don't deserve to be cold in the winter, too hot in the summer, or have stuff like their toilet's not working for them, right? That's not okay to be that kind of person. But you need to be aware that, yeah, you got deferred maintenance. Why? Well, you might have bought a property that used to be run by a slumlord. Or maybe a slumlord runs your property next door to you, across the street from you, and these houses are falling apart, and it's going to bring the value of your stuff down. And then when those tenants say to their, tell your tenant, hey man, we ain't paying our guy because he didn't do this and he didn't do that. Well, dude, these people talk. They got neighbors just like you and me. I talk to my neighbors. Yeah, you don't want these people all getting together and hating on you when you're the actual nice guy trying to do a good job. So be aware. Ultimately, I just think it's important to know your market, and know your market in many different ways. Not just the value of homes, not just the average return that you can expect on your cash on cash, not just the cost of what it is to replace a roof, but you should really know to the best of your ability, and it takes time, the neighborhoods, other big players in the area, turnkey providers, flippers, real estate agents. Man, when I tell you there's a lot of drama in the Gary, Indiana market, just like there's drama everywhere, oh man, there's rumors galore about this turnkey provider or this property manager or this home rental manager. And it's just, I could sit there and listen to stories all day like, wow, really? Holy smokes, this is like a TV show or something. What the flip? So try your best over time to get acquainted with the issues. And just at the beginning, if you haven't stepped into that market, just expect there's gonna be some crap, all right? Anyways, guys, I appreciate you watching this video. Hopefully I shared something that was beneficial with you. There are a lot of opportunities when it comes to investing in markets like Gary, Indiana that have a very low cost and barrier to entry. You and me and regular people can take advantage of getting on the property ladder, building equity, making passive income, and having houses paid down by someone else that will add to your net worth over a 30-year period, and eventually you can retire, hopefully financially free and independent. But you also want to be aware of the difficulties. It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's not that difficult. It's not like my regular job as a police officer where sometimes I get shot at. But that being said, it can be stressful. And if you're not the type of person who does well with stress like this, well, then maybe waiting until you save more money and investing in a nicer market is a better idea. That being said, you can see any of the issues that I just described in any market. It's just a little more common in America's most miserable city. Appreciate you all for watching, and we'll catch you next time. I want to talk about something I'm trying to do for my followers. If you don't know what this is called a challenge coin. They're very common in the military and in law enforcement. And what it is it's a coin that traditionally was started by George Washington. It's a coin that represents shared values, common values, an experience that you and other members of your unit or your group, in my case a police department, or in the case of this coin, my SWAT team, shares, and that we've all gone through these experiences. Originally, George Washington would give coins out to soldiers if they completed some sort of task, and you could challenge another person if you were unsure what side they were on, and if they could present to you a challenge coin, it was verification that they were indeed who they said they were and not a spy or something like that. And today the military and law enforcement still use challenge coins. My goal is for everybody who subscribed to me before I hit 5,000 subscribers, the original subscribers of my channel, the original supporters, followers, the people who have been with me since day one, the people that I care the most about and that I'm the most thankful for, I want to be able to give you a challenge coin. So here's what I need you to do. If you're subscribed to me, I want you to screenshot that you've subscribed to me, then go over to Instagram and look up @MillennialMike. Send me a direct message, follow me on Instagram, and send me a direct message with the screenshotted picture of you subscribed to me before I hit 5,000 followers. If I then hit 50,000 followers, I will create and design my own challenge coin for our channel and for our real estate progression. And if you're one of my original followers, I will mail you out this coin, and it will forever be your pass to getting access to me. No matter how big or popular I may get, I will always make time for the people who made time for me in the beginning. So that's your opportunity to make sure that you get the recognition you deserve for putting up with my garbage content from day one.